Good morning, y'all. This is Tonetta, your relationship coach and Speak Your Truth, where I help inspire and educate you to, of course, be who you are and speak your truth within your relationships. And I want to welcome you all to this video. We're talking about the rapper DMX and Trauma this morning. And I know this month, of course, I've talked about a little bit this month as well. Just letting you all know that this month is National Child Abuse Prevention Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So, of course, I want to make sure I stay on that topic and talk to you a little bit about, not more about the sexual abuse and the sexual abuse of DMX, because I have no idea what he's been through. If you all have no idea who DMX is, he's a rapper who's had a long history of drug abuse, I believe alcohol abuse as well. Right now he's in a coma. They said he's in a coma or in the hospital in a vegetative state, I guess, because he's had a drug overdose recently that put him into that kind of capacity. And like I said, I definitely want to talk about that this morning, because when I think about him, I think a lot about trauma. Some of you all may have heard some of his story. It's floating around Facebook somewhere on here about how he was forced into using drugs by some DJ or someone back like years and years and years ago. He was in the foster care system and all these kind of things, all these traumatizing things that he's had in his life as well. And it just took me back to just thinking about, of course, he had a wife, he had an ex-wife and children and that kind of thing as well. And it just kind of took me back to my dynamic as I was growing up as well, because I know he's of course a father and a husband, was a husband as well. And I believe he was dating someone else, I guess, from what I hear, or was getting engaged or something like that recently. But from what I understand, of course, he is a father and he was a husband at some point. And of course, as I think about in my life, as far as my father was a father and he was a husband, he's passed away now. He, of course, died of a drug overdose. I was about 30 or 31 years old. So that was maybe like 13 years ago, maybe, or 14 years ago, somewhere like that. And like I said, it just takes me back to just thinking about, do we even know what our parents have been through? I guess I put it that way. All the trauma. I know I've seen, of course, my parents, and both of them are, like I said, deceased right now. Deceased at this time. So, of course, rest in peace to them. And like I said, my dad died of a drug overdose. My mom died. She passed away of cervical cancer that had spread into her body and that kind of thing. And there was nothing else that they can do at that point. I guess I put it that way. And like I said, it just takes me back to, of course, like I said, thinking about DMX and his story and the trauma I'm sure that he suffered in growing up with the, being in foster care all those years, being incarcerated for all those years and that kind of thing, and all the mental anguish and, like I said, mental, emotional trauma, all that kind of stuff that I'm sure went on, probably physical trauma as well. I have no idea if he was ever sexually abused. I don't know. But like I said, those are some of the things that I always think about when I'm thinking about my own parents as well. And I'm sure some of you all may have, I don't know, but some of you all may know somebody that have had an experience like this with a parent that may have been using drugs or drinking alcohol or had some other kind of addiction like gambling or something along those lines. In my eyes and in my mind, they all kind of are kind of on the same level when it comes to, with some of it is kind of on the same level, especially when it comes to drug and alcohol abuse. And of course, gambling, I put gambling in that same category as well, especially if that's something that you can't, of course, stop doing. You have to always have it, and it gives you whatever kind of high it gives you, I guess I put it that way. And you're losing your family, friends, which I have seen that in a few people actually with gambling addictions and that kind of thing. So like I said, I think about all those things when I think about DMX as far as what he possibly could have went through, and whether he even ever told anybody what he went through, and whether which I know with drug abuse, I'm a social worker, so I've been through many years of dealing with many folks in traumatic situations when they were kids, of course, having parents that were actually clients of mine that were using drugs and that kind of thing, and they were in the foster care system as well, because I worked in the foster care system for about 8 years. So like I said, I have a lot of history with this as well. And like I said, it always just takes me back to, of course, like I said, looking at my life and the lives of those around me and the lives that I've affected, I guess I put it that way as well, and the lives of family and friends and that kind of thing, just wondering whether we ever have taken the time to even find out what's going on or what happened in our parents' lives as to why they're acting the way they are now, I guess I put it that way. So for instance, DMX was on drugs and all those kind of things. We know that he was in foster care. We know that he was, of course, incarcerated for some time throughout his life as well. But do we really know what happened to this young man? Did he ever tell somebody that, this happened to me when I was young. This was a traumatizing experience for me when I was young, or whatever it was. Like I said, we never know what all he went through. And I'm sure part of that drug addiction, whether he was given the drugs at whatever age it was, by whatever DJ it was, back in the day it was, I know at some point he, of course, stopped. He, of course, was sobering up, was off drugs for a while, that kind of thing, that went right back to it. that puts in my mind and lets me know that I see that a lot, of course, with drug users and I guess alcohol. I guess those who are addicted to alcohol and things like that. Like I said, of course, I've seen my own parents, of course, getting off drugs, going back on drugs, all those kind of things throughout my life, and it's just like, okay, what else has happened? I guess I put it that way. I never knew, of course, what happened in my father's life or my mother's life, that kind of thing, to, of course, cause them to do all those things. But I'm just letting you all know. I'm sure some of you all have your parents alive. They're still in your life, that kind of thing, but they may have battled with some of these same kind of traumatizing issues as well. Not just the sexual abuse, not just the I guess like the drinking and the drug addiction, things like that. But we never know what our parents have been through unless we ask them. I know a lot of times we see our parents, they're so strict, or they're so this, or they always tell us what to do, or they always tell us this and that, or they always say because I said so, or whatever the case may be. And it is probably because they said so, and it is probably because of how they were raised and what they went through and what they know in their own world of wherever their name is. And like I said, we have to realize that at some point that our parents were traumatized, or may have possibly been traumatized as well, even though we see them as people who are on drugs, or see them as people who are drinking all the time, or see them as a person who's violent, because my dad was also violent, beating up on my mother all the time. And it just takes me back to wonder why, because I never knew why. I don't know why. Like I said, he's passed away now, so I don't have any answers. And like I said, that just takes me back to thinking about DMX. Hopefully he was able to tell some of those people around him, his family, the wife he was married to, I don't know, his kids, that kind of thing, the things that he was going through. In my mind, I don't think that he did. I guess to some extent, he may have talked to them about some of the things, but I don't think he got deep down and dirty into the things that was actually bothering him. Because like I said, I know I talking to my partner this morning as well, with DMX's story. He was on drugs, off drugs, in jail, out of jail, that kind of thing. And it was just a cycle with him. And like I said, it was just a never-ending cycle. And now he's in the hospital because he had a drug overdose, and in a coma, vegetative state, that kind of thing as well. And it just reminds me, like I said, trauma will affect you throughout your entire life unless you deal with that trauma. I know I've said that since this month have began, because like I said, it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and it's Child Abuse Prevention Month. And like I said, the trauma that we go through is, I guess, as youth, as children, as babies, and all those kind of things stay with us unless we deal with those things. And like I said, thinking about DMX, I'm sure that there were some other things that he was dealing with that nobody even knew about, that he never even spoke to anybody. And that's why, of course, I labeled this business Speak Your Truth. Like I said, we have to learn how to speak our truth about different things, especially all the traumatic things that's bothering us. You don't have to get on video like I do, or write or get on video or write books if you don't want to bring anybody else into the mix. But you can definitely, of course, write in your journal, or talk to whether you have a pastor or somebody that you, of course, are close to, some elder or something like that, just at least to get this information out so that you won't be hurting all the time. And like I said, I'm sure by listening to his story, hearing what I heard about this young man's story, I know he's not the only one that's, of course, suffering with trauma, especially being a black male in this country, I guess I put it that way. Like I said, I'm sure he's not the only one that's suffering with trauma. And when I go outside my doors, of course, traveling to work or going to the store or going to other places, I have seen young black men outside, actually around the corner, standing outside around the corner looking like he was high on something. I'm sure it could have been a mental illness as well. But the way he was looking, talking to himself, doing all these things, and the way his eyes were rolling, I'm sure he was high on something. And like I said, this young man, he couldn't have been no more than about 21, 22, no more than 25 years old. Unless he was way younger, I don't know, but he looked like he could have been no more than 25 years old. And I have seen that a lot throughout my life, I guess I put it that way. And like I said, just thinking about all those things and thinking about DMX and all these things and all this trauma, like I said, at some point we have to realize that if you're wanting to have a more, I guess, a happier life, full of less traumatic, less like alcohol usage, drug usage, and all those kind of things, we have to start talking about the things that are bothering us. If we don't talk about them, but we're, of course, our behavior is putting out that we're, of course, unhappy, that we're resentful, that we, of course, have all these addictions and all these kind of things, at some point, somebody, hopefully, I don't know if somebody around the young man or DMX had even told him or tried to talk to him. I'm sure they may have. But like I said, at some point, we can talk to people all we want, until we're all blue in the face. At some point, the person who has the addiction, the person who has the has all the traumatic experiences, the person who's seen somebody being killed, all these kind of things, all that stuff is trauma. Like I said, we have to deal with all that trauma. If not the trauma, like Charlamagne said this morning on the radio, that trauma will definitely deal with us, and it will come out in our behaviors. It will come out in the way that we act towards other people. It will come out in the way that we raise our own kids, in the way that we treat ourselves. It will come out in the relationships that we have with other people, romantic relationships as well. I know I've seen people jump back and forth out of relationship, back and forth to relationships, cheating on people, doing all these things. I'm sure at some point those folks were in some kind of way traumatized as well. That behavior just doesn't come out of thin air, I guess I put it that way. Usually it's whatever you're socialized into, I guess I put it that way, what you see growing up, and usually sometimes what happens to you as well. Like I said, we have to realize that in order for us to be more whole and happier individuals, that kind of thing, living our life and enjoying our life and not having addictions and all these things going on, and we have to deal with our trauma. Like I said, our trauma is not just going to go anywhere out of thin air. It's not just going to erase because we said so, or because we tried to suppress it, not think about it, think that it's just going to go away because, like I said, because we haven't said anything about it. But you think about it every single day. That stuff bothers people every single day. I don't care if it's sexual abuse. I don't care if we were beaten as a kid. I don't care if you were in a foster care system as a kid. Those all abandonment issues, all those kind of things, seeing domestic violence, seeing physical violence, people shooting somebody outside, all kind of stuff going on. And even with the kids now, with all the stuff that's online, we forget to understand and realize that these kids are seeing this stuff as well. All the police shootings and all the police killings and all this kind of stuff. We see videos with folks like I just saw yesterday, all these folks down in Miami, all these black women, it looked like, and folks were taking videos of them fighting and all this kind of shit outside. Our kids are seeing this stuff, these reality shows and different things that they're watching. We forget that on some level that is traumatizing to them as well. We neglect to think about that. We don't realize how all this stuff that they're seeing right now, all the stuff that they're hearing and going through in this pandemic and all this kind of stuff, how that's going to affect them years down the line if we haven't talked to them about it, or if we actually haven't sat down to ask how they feel about it, anything. They have to speak their truth as well, just as we do as adults. But like I said, if nobody's talking about the trauma, people are just going on with their daily lives and just saying, oh, that was them or that was them. That stuff at some point will stay in the back of your head, and every time those triggers, every time that you're walking to the store or you're going somewhere, you see somebody that may be on drugs or that may be prostituting or something else, you'll be like, oh my God, that's going to trigger you into, oh, so-and-so was on drugs, or my dad was on drugs, or I hate to see that, and all this kind of stuff. You have to realize that all the trauma that we've been through and that you have been through, you have been through, your kids have been through, that is going to affect you all for the rest of your life until you deal with that. So like I said, I definitely want to come on with this video this morning just to remind you all about that. I know, like I said, again, we have a lot of things going on this month with the National Child Abuse Prevention Month and the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. But like I said, we definitely, with us talking about these things, trying to get this information out there more, just realize that our trauma, if we don't deal with it, is not going to go anywhere. It's just going to create a life for us, a life of turmoil, a life of whatever else we don't want. I guess I put it that way. Unhappiness, resentment, anger, hate, all those. I went through all those things as well. And like I said, for some, like DMX, it created a life of drug abuse, back and forth, in and out of prison, that kind of thing. And I see a lot of folks like that, even in my own family, my own neighborhood I grew up in, friends and that kind of thing as well. Like I said, I know it for a fact that a lot of them were traumatized. And like I said, by them not, I see some of them now still haven't dealt with their trauma, that kind of thing. Some may still be on the streets, or some may still be in that same victim mode, that kind of thing, and not able to pull themselves up and go ahead and do something different. I guess I put it that way. I know for a lot of people, if you don't, well, not for a lot, I can't say a lot, because I was one who wasn't around anybody doing anything positive. But of course, I saw some of the stuff on TV. People were traveling, the Cosby Show was on, people were living good lives, was a doctor and all these kind of things. And I had an inkling in my mind, like, yes, I know that's possible at some point for me. And like I said, some folks just don't know what the possibilities are. And then there's a lack of hope. So like I said, with all those things going on, and then the trauma and all that kind of stuff, all that stuff builds. And it will create a life of turmoil. I have been through that kind of life. I've gotten through it now. I guess I put it that way, as you can see, but not as you can see, but as you can hear. Because of course, I can look like anything, but still going through trauma, and you would never know. But like I said, as you definitely hear me talking about it and that kind of thing, and able to, of course, get through this conversation without crying or being upset, or that I am passionate. Yes, you will hear that, but like I said, those things don't trigger me as much as they used to anymore at all. And that's what I hope for all all of us. Like I said, we definitely have to start talking about or getting out our trauma and the things that happened to us so that we can live a happier and more free life. I guess inner freedom life, that kind of thing. Like I said, I definitely want that for all of you all, because I have it for me, so I know how that feels. And I know that if you all, of course, are listening to this message and hearing about DMX and that kind of thing, and possibly all the trauma that he has been through, if not him, I'm sure you know others who have been through trauma, who haven't dealt with it, who are depressed, who are suicidal. I was that way as well. And like I said, there's always, at some point, we have to realize that in order for us to, of course, live a more healthier life, we have to deal with our trauma. It's not going to go anywhere, y'all. It's not going to be erased because we said we don't want to talk about it, or we tried to push it down and stuff it down and suppress it. I've done that as well. But like I said, you definitely have to realize that you have to deal with that trauma, and that's why I'm here. And like I said, that's why I'm talking about this stuff this month, just to reiterate that to you all, and just to let you all know how important that is. Because not dealing with any kind of trauma and trying to suppress things, it will affect every relationship that you have. I don't care if it's with your kids. I don't care if it's with your family. I don't care if it's with your friends. I don't care if it's with your romantic partner or partners or whoever else you're with. It's going to affect the way you look at your job and your possibilities in life as well. So with that, I want to just say thank you all for listening to this video. And I hope that you got at least one thing from this video that you can think about today, especially if you're one who have not dealt with your trauma thus far. But like I said, again, make sure that you'll listen to this video. And please do, of course, share this video with those that you may, those that you think that can, of course, benefit from this message. So like I said, again, I'm Tonetta, your relationship coach here at Speak Your Truth. And of course, Speak Your Truth is here to educate and inspire you to, of course, speak your truth and be who you are in your relationship. So with that, y'all, I want to say have a great day, y'all, and take care. Bye-bye.